Speedbird 337, maintain heading 115. Contact Tehran Defense Radar on 127.8. Good day. Inside the cockpit, First Officer Edward Blake responded to the Turkish air traffic controller. Roger that, Ankara Center. Speedbird 337, maintain heading 115, switching to 127.8. He glanced to his left and caught Captain Sam Allard's eyes for a moment before turning the VHF radio to the new frequency. The British Airways flight, radio call sign Speedbird, was closing in on Iran's flight information region and needed permission to enter Iranian airspace. Tehran radar, this is Speedbird 337 Heavy. Go ahead, Speedbird 337. Tehran radar, Speedbird 337 with you at flight level 390. Estimate crossing your FIR at 1520 hours. Roger, Speedbird 337. Squawk 0413 and proceed as filed. The radio fell silent while the Iranian controller verified the radar contact and flight plan that the British Airways pilots had filed before taking off from London. In peaceful times, the flight would have followed the Great Circle route through Uzbekistan and Afghanistan before heading south below the Himalayas on its way to Singapore. For the past decade, however, hostilities in the area led most airlines to divert their jets to the south, over Iran. The detour added a few minutes and several $1,000s to the cost of each flight, but it was safer than flying through a war zone. Speedbird 337 identified, cleared for entry. Contact Tehran Center on 133.4. Good day. Roger that, radar. Speedbird 337 cleared for entry, switching to 133.4. Captain Allard adjusted the autopilot, and the 620-ton Airbus A380 banked gently to the right before settling onto its new course. He scanned his instruments and cross-checked his flight computer. Underneath the wings of the Airbus, 4 Rolls-Royce Trent 970 engines were running smoothly, each delivering over 80,000 pounds of thrust. The radio in the cockpit chirped sporadically as air traffic controllers directed the other planes in Sector 2 around Tehran. Most of the flights were domestic, but Emirates, Air India, and other international carriers were not uncommon. The long-haul flight was on schedule as Allard gazed out the cockpit windows. The late-day sun was starting to form shadows behind the mountains below. It was his first flight over Iran. It was more rugged and beautiful than he'd expected, but his reverie was interrupted by the co-pilot. Captain, we have a warning light on the number 3 engine. Exhaust gas temperature is spiking and oil pressure is dropping quickly. An automated voice in the cockpit called out another warning, and a message flashed on the centralized aircraft monitor inside the cockpit. Captain Allard silenced the alarms. He was already looking at the engine data on his own monitors. I don't think we're going to be able to keep it running. Give me maximum continuous thrust on the good engines and let's run the engine shutdown checklist. Blake made eye contact with the senior officer and took a deep breath. Yes, sir. Commencing in-flight shutdown on the number 3 engine. Blake pushed the button for the fasten seatbelt sign while Captain Allard switched to the air traffic control frequency on his headset. Tehran Center Speedbird 337 requesting immediate clearance to flight level 270. Our number 3 engine has lost oil pressure and we're shutting it down. The radio was quiet for a few long seconds. Ballard and Blake shut down the malfunctioning engine and trimmed the aircraft's rudder to compensate for the off-center thrust. Speedbird 337, you are cleared to flight level 270. Understand number 3 engine out. Are you declaring an emergency at this time? Asked the controller. Allard looked at his co-pilot. Take her down to 270 as soon as we hit drift down speed. Center 337 leaving flight level 390 for 270. That's negative. Repeat, negative on the emergency. We don't know the cause of the pressure loss yet, but the other 3 engines are running smoothly. Roger, Speedbird 337. Confirm you are in A380? That's affirmative, Center. Speedbird 337, nearest capable alternate airport is Esfahan, approximately 60 miles northwest of your position. Would you like vectors to the alternate? Center 337, negative on the alternate. We are proceeding on course, descending through flight level 360. We're going to look at restarting on number 3 once we reach engine out altitude. Understood, Speedbird 337. Maintain heading 125 degrees, flight level 270, and keep us advised of your status. Maintain heading 125, Speedbird 337. Confirmed, Allard. When the aircraft started its descent, most of the passengers felt a touch of weightlessness before their seatbelts pulled them down. Flight attendants walked down the pitched aisles, waking the sleeping passengers and enforcing the seatbelt rule. Questions from the passengers were politely deflected, despite the clearly elevated vigilance on the part of the crew. Captain Allard picked up the handset for the internal public address system as the aircraft descended. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your captain. You may have noticed that we've slowed down and descended over the past few minutes. Everything is fine. We'll soon be leveling off at 27,000 feet, where we're going to stay for a bit. One of our engines was acting up, so we decided to shut it down until we can correct the problem and get it restarted. The A380 is designed to fly quite well with only 3 engines and can get by with 2 if necessary. In the meantime, please listen to your flight attendants and remain in your seats. We will keep you appraised of the situation. Thank you.